March 2, 1955, -1-year-old Claudette Colvin stayed seated on a Montgomery bus when she was told to give her place to a white passenger. Her decision came months before Rosa Parks' arrest and became an important part of the legal fight against segregation. Claudette was not simply reacting to one uncomfortable moment. She was responding to a system that treated black passengers as if their rights could be rearranged whenever a white passenger wanted a seat. Her story helps us see how young people, women, and less famous activists helped create the pressure that eventually changed public law. Claudette had been in the 11th grade when she and other students boarded a bus after school. At first, it was an ordinary trip home. When more white passengers entered, 4 black students were asked to move so that the seating arrangement would follow Montgomery's segregation rules. 3 students stood up, but Claudette remained in her seat. Her decision transformed an everyday ride into a moment of resistance because she understood that the request represented an unjust system rather than a fair exchange between passengers. Lessons about Black history and conversations about discrimination had made the injustice impossible for Claudette to ignore. She remembered the courage associated with Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, feeling that their example helped her remain firm when the pressure around her grew. Her resistance was connected to what she had learned in school and in her community. History was not an abstract subject for her. It offered examples of people who had faced danger and still acted because they believed freedom required courage. The bus driver called the police and asked Claudette to stand. She refused, explaining that she had paid her fare and believed she had a constitutional right to remain. The conflict was not only about the seat itself. Montgomery's rules placed black passengers and white passengers under unequal expectations, even when they had paid the same fare. Officers removed Claudette from the bus, handcuffed her, and took her to the city jail. The arrest showed how quickly an ordinary act of self-respect could be treated as a threat by an unequal system. After the arrest, Claudette faced serious charges and indefinite probation. She was rejected by some people in her community and felt that the event changed her entire life. She had hoped to become an attorney, yet she was treated as a troublemaker instead of being honored for her courage. Her experience demonstrates that the consequences of protest are not always immediate recognition or public praise. Sometimes the person who acts first carries loneliness, suspicion, and personal loss while the wider movement decides how to respond. Claudette met Rosa Parks about 2 weeks after her arrest. They later connected through a youth group that discussed discrimination in Montgomery. Claudette did not resent Rosa's later fame. She was glad that people were finally willing to stand against segregation. At the same time, her story reminds us that movements are larger than a single celebrated moment. Many young women had already challenged the bus system, and their experiences formed part of the foundation on which later organizing and legal action were built. Claudette believed that young women, such as Mary Louise Smith and others, also deserved recognition. The movement needed more than one famous name. Their actions showed that teenagers and women were already challenging injustice, even when history later remembered only a small part of the larger struggle. Recognizing several participants does not diminish the achievements of well-known leaders. Instead, it gives a fuller account of how change happens through repeated acts of courage by people who may not know whether anyone will remember them. Claudette became a key witness in Browder v. Gayle, the case that helped end segregation on public buses. She was nervous on the witness stand, but she found strength in telling the truth about being treated as a second-class citizen. Her testimony helped turn a personal arrest into legal change. The courtroom required her to revisit a painful experience and explain it carefully. Yet her evidence became part of a larger constitutional argument. Her role shows that resistance can continue long after the original event, through memory, testimony, and the courage to be heard. Claudette's story reminds us that history is often built by people whose names are not immediately celebrated. She hoped only that she had done some good. Yet her decision, testimony, and sacrifice helped expose an unjust system. Remembering her restores an important part of the movement's truth. Her life invites us to look beyond a single iconic photograph or name and to ask who acted before the headlines, who endured the consequences, and who helped transform private experience of injustice into a public demand for equal rights.